This is Rising Phoenix Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Rhodes. This podcast is for men struggling with an unwanted divorce. I interview experts on divorce, mental health, and I provide insights gained from my own divorce journey. You are not alone. Join me. Hello and welcome to the show. This is episode 187. Another solo one, so let's roll right into these new locations. Utah. I don't know if that means the whole state or you're just super stealthy over there in Utah. You listened to episode 186. I really enjoyed that one. I recorded that one the day before it got out. Really, really enjoyed that one. He was a great guest. I loved his metaphor about the guitar playing and emotions. Just best way I've ever heard it described ever. Malahide Leinster. I think that's UK. Fuck if I know. Also, episode 186. Oh boy, here's one. Stuttgart, Baden-Württemberg, Württemberg. Fucking A. I'm gonna assume that's somewhere in Germany, but I have no idea. You listened to episode 182, The Art of Moving On, with therapist Edie Nathan. And last, but certainly not least, my home Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Again, either the whole state or someone on the down low also listened to episode 186. Yeah, that one again, that was a good one. Before I get to the topic at hand, I want to discuss a few things real quick. The newsletter is basically on hold. I'm really not even sure that I'm going to do it. I thought it would be a pretty easy thing to do, but I'm just having trouble sort of I don't have a clear vision of what I want it to look like, how often it come out, what will even be in it, if it makes any kind of sense. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do, and it might be nothing. So not 100% sure. I'm going to, like last year, take some time off. I I probably will start in the month of June, and I probably won't be back until September. That's my guess at this point. I'm fucking tired. And I had a lot of good momentum with the Discord server, and it's tapered off a little bit. And I want to get back into that because there's so much more that needs to be done. Shout out to everyone recently that's joined. There's been a good uptick in new members, and it's been refreshing to go to meetings and book club and see new faces and see successes. You know, guys that are a couple months in and already seemingly doing better, based on interactions and meetings, based on their check-ins. It's really, man, it's good stuff. And if you feel alone and hopeless, join the Discord server, please. It's well worth the $5. So there's more stuff coming, and I want to be able to focus on that. And also, it's summer, so the kids are going to be off school, obviously, and I don't have too many more summers with my oldest daughter. She just turned 16, so clock is ticking, and I could use a break, to be quite honest with you. So I don't know exactly when I'm going to start this break. Probably the end of this month, if I had to guess. But I will be back. There's many more topics to cover. I have probably 4 or 5 recorded that I have to figure out if I'm going to put out. Like I gotta go back and listen and reevaluate because I'm just not sure. So I will be back, and I'm not going anywhere yet in terms of the break. There'll probably be this one obviously, and then I got to figure out what I am going to put out interview wise for the next week on I guess it'll be the 20th, and then so the 27th will be a solo one, and that will probably be the last one for a few months. So I want to say apologies, but fucking earned a break, so I'm fucking take it. So I want to dive into the topic at hand. I want to talk about it, sort of build on the last solo episode where I talked about saying no and the importance of it and how it can start to build your self-worth. And once you start with that self-worth, then you can expand upon it and create firm and defined boundaries. So that's what this episode is going to be about, is about boundaries. And it's kind of a buzzword in a way. It's kind of one of those words that gets thrown around a lot. without much nuance. And I'm no expert by any stretch of the fucking imagination, but I want to talk about how I see them, how I define them, and then how I deploy them at times. And I feel like once you learn how to do this, you don't, there isn't, it's not necessary to keep repeating it over and over, in particular with your co-parent. But it can obviously expand beyond that, and I'm going to cover different kinds of boundaries. So, but what is a boundary? So my definition was always a boundary is what you tell the world what you will and will not tolerate in terms of how you're treated. You can also look at it sort of like an invisible fence in a way, but also at some points that invisible fence has a big neon fucking sign that says, I'm not, I don't tolerate this, and this, and this. So it's basically a protection for your mental health, more than anything. But it's not about pushing people away or, again, back to the last soul on being an asshole when you're saying no. It's not about that. It's about deciding what's right and wrong for you. What will you tolerate and what you will not tolerate. It protects your peace, as Trent Shelton says. I don't know if any of you out there know who he is. He's a motivational speaker, author, great guy. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I love his content, and he talks about protecting your peace a lot, and it's important in this process to protect your peace. Just like saying no, it allows you to start building your self-worth. You can expand upon that by being precise and firm with the things that you'll accept and won't accept. So it's not about punishing people. That's not what boundaries are. It's about protecting yourself, period. But there's nuance to that, right? So why does it matter? Well, as you get this self-worth by saying no and start sort of standing up for yourself a little bit, um, you can build on that and further stabilize how you feel about yourself, like the way that you see yourself. And if you're able to say no to things and then even further define it, it reinforces that you have worth and you have value. Because otherwise you wouldn't do anything, right? You would be a fucking doormat. You're like, oh, it doesn't matter what I think, or it doesn't matter what I want to do or don't want to do. Um, Obviously, that's bullshit. And this process allows you to solidify that, to confirm to yourself, or maybe reaffirm, or maybe affirm, period, that you have worth, that you have value, because you're able to stand up for yourself in ways that reinforce that you are worthy of saying no, of not dealing and tolerating certain things. And this can be very tricky, especially when we're talking about co-parenting and things of that nature. One of the things that I see sometimes, um, in the divorce support group is guys complaining about, and I wouldn't say this is often, but sometimes guys will complain about, I always have the kids. And I hear you. I know how stressful it is doing this shit on your own. But believe me, I am in the middle of a 5 day stretch. I did get a little bit of relief on obviously yesterday was Mother's Day. Um, but I'm in the middle of a 5 day stretch. And so I know how draining that is. But here's the thing. We're Circumstances aside, and why I say that is you could have full custody, so this doesn't apply to you. But circumstances aside, you do not have your kids as much as you would if you were still in the marriage that you were in. And so anytime you can have your children, you're I don't want to say making up for lost time, but kind of, you're certainly getting time that you unfortunately normally wouldn't get in this new fucked up reality that you have to live in. So take your children every time, every time. I know that it's tiring. I know that it's exhausting, but we can't get that time back. That time that has been taken from us cannot be regained. So anytime you get bonus time, take it. So that aside, it's really important to create these boundaries with a co-parent because they allow you to start creating a space for healing, like if you're involved in all aspects of her life, and I'm going to give you an example here in a minute. Let me write that shit down so I don't forget. I'm just going to put the word example. So if you talk about things other than the children, or if you talk about things with her that you don't want to talk about, you don't allow yourself the space to heal and to move on. Like you're still intertwined with her. And so let me give you an example, like I said. So, and then I'm going to start breaking down some different types of boundaries. Um, I can't remember how long ago it was. I want to say maybe 2 years ago. My ex messaged me and said, "Hey, I have this really important work meeting. I don't know if she wanted me to. I think it might have been summer, and she wanted me to keep him for a day. I don't remember the exact scenario. It's been a while, but I remember the feeling, and I remember her responses. But she asked me to keep the kids. I don't remember again time period or time length or what it was, but I said, let me talk to the girls. And that was always my answer, and is always my answer. Regardless if I know I'm probably going to say yes, it's always let me ask the girls. Hey girls, your mom has this work thing. You cool with staying with dad? Yeah, sure, dad. But she didn't like that answer. And she went off about, I'm very flexible with you. Well, yeah, bitch. If you want child support, you're going to have to be flexible with me because I have a job that requires me to travel. So you're not being fucking flexible. What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? Do you want child support? So, but I didn't say any of that, right? All I said was, let me talk to the girl. And she went off about blah, 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 blah. You know what I said? Okay, let me talk to the girls. I didn't engage. I didn't say any of that stuff that I just said. I didn't say that to her because that would have been inviting more bullshit and more drama. I set a clear boundary. Okay, I'm going to talk to the kids. Whatever other bullshit she threw at me, I didn't have to respond to it, and I didn't. And I think this is really important because it sets the tone. It does set that boundary so that you don't have to you you learn, but also I think you're teaching the other person that you're not engaging in bullshit. You're setting and creating that boundary for your space. This is my space. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to ask the kids. Doesn't matter what she says. It doesn't at all matter because I didn't say no. I didn't say yes. I said let me ask them. And so then it's my decision. Again, even though um I was probably going to say yes, and I did say yes if I remember correctly, because again, always take your kids. But it allowed me to have the autonomy to be like, I don't just fucking jump when you want to, even if it's like, yeah, that's reasonable, and I'll probably do that. But and it wasn't even that part of it that was the boundary setting. It was afterwards when she started complaining. And I could have said exactly what I said a few minutes ago to her, and that would have caused us back and forth, right? And what good does that do me? That brings her into my space. That doesn't. There's no boundary there. That's just let's argue and bitch and fight and complain and just keep connected. Fuck all that. You're never going to heal if that's the game you're going to play because you're not allowing yourself the space to heal. You're not allowing yourself the autonomy to be your own person so you can fucking heal, right? You're going to stay attached and in some ways play the victim. And there's a lot of stuff that could be said around playing the victim and being a victim and at some points you are a victim, but here's one thing that I am fucking sure of. A victim doesn't heal. Period. So when you set these boundaries, you give yourself that space to heal. So but let's talk about some of the different types of boundaries. There are emotional ones, and these are the big ones, right? You limit your anything that could be triggering. Like I don't want to hear about a new boyfriend. I don't give a fuck about your new boyfriend. I don't give a fuck about your new job because then that makes me think of money and child support and 401ks that I had to fucking give you. And so I don't want to hear about. I don't give a fuck about that. Fuck you. I don't care about your job. You're not my wife anymore. I don't give a fuck about where you work or as long as you're able to provide for the children with my assistance, of course. Um, You see what I'm saying? Why that's not one you want to talk about, at least for me, because that would trigger me and I would get pissed, and then my boundary would go down, and I would have an argument, and when there would be fighting, and there's drama, and she's back into my life, and I'm no longer just myself, right? And um, standing on my own. I'm then arguing and bickering with someone that doesn't deserve my time and energy. So emotional boundaries are probably the biggest ones, if I'm being honest. And they're just around what are your triggers, and avoid those as best you can. Now, there's a school of thought that you know, the world shouldn't um, bend to your triggers or whatever, but I say horseshit. I say, if there is something that you don't want someone to do, then you let it be known, and then they can make a choice, right? And then you can make a choice, right? So I, I think there's nothing wrong with saying this is a. We don't actually sometimes I think saying these things is not helpful in terms of defining it. Like, hey, I don't want to talk about money because it's hurtful, because it reminds me of blah blah blah. Don't even say that. Just like, I don't want to talk about that. You don't have to give a fucking reason. There's a lot of strength in silence. You say I don't want this. You don't have to fucking explain it. Boundaries don't have to be explained. Silence will say a fucking ton. So those are big ones. Communication boundaries. These are kind of similar, just in terms of what it could lead to, right? In terms of, I don't want to. I don't know. I'm trying to think about, in terms of, I know for her, this is one for her. She only wanted to communicate via the app, which was at the time our family wizard. And sometimes I wouldn't use it because I was a dick. But eventually I was just like, you know what, it's not worth the fucking fight, because she would whine and bitch and complain. So whatever. All right, fucking I'll use it. That was her boundary, and I adhered to it. Why? Because it wasn't worth the fucking fight. Pick your battles. Is a big one. There are many battles that are going to be fought, and make sure you choose wisely. And how, if someone says, I only want to communicate this way, is that something worth fighting over? Fuck no, not no, it's not. Now, obviously, physical boundaries. Don't fucking touch me. I mean, that's a pretty clear. I mean, those are in place anyway. Uh, for a lot of people, for a lot of scenarios, right? Like, I don't want some random dude fucking pushing me or something, right? That, like, well, who the fuck are you? Don't touch me, right? Don't put your hands on me. So those are probably not. Well, they could be. They could be. Your ex might be a try to be touchy feely, and that could be very triggering. Like, don't, whoa, that's not for me. And again, you don't have to say anything. You just fucking walk away. And last one is time boundaries. So, and I see this in terms of drop off, right? Like, she'll want to talk about this and that, and you don't have to talk about any fucking thing. You get your kids and, hey, I gotta go. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to say, yeah, I'm going to meet my girlfriend, or, there's no need to provoke or invite bullshit into your life. Just walk away. So now that we covered the different types of boundaries and sort of the reasoning behind them, how do we set them? What is the process? So first, you have to identify what bothers you, what triggers you. And again, trigger is one of those fucking words that gets thrown around, and there's connotation to it, or I don't know, a certain type of view with the word. But whatever pisses you off, how about that? Which inevitably is just what hurts your feelings, and figure out what those things are, and then write down. A lot of this stuff, a lot of this work that we do, really does involve sitting down and writing things out. Grab your fucking journal, write this shit out. What bothers you, and what do you not want to have happen? And then be specific as you can. Um, and you don't necessarily have to. I don't think it's necessary to say, hey, I don't want to hear about your boyfriend. You don't even have to say that, because then that could invite her to be like, well, why? You know, he's better than you anyway, or whatever, right? There could be these fucking daggers that they stick in you. So all you say is, I only want to talk about the kids, and anything dealing with the kid. That's it. You don't have to say, I don't want to talk about this and that. You don't have to give a fucking laundry list. Just make it specific as to what you are okay talking about. Because again, that invites less back and forth and less fucking conflict. If there was a fucking Olympic event for avoiding conflict, both in good and bad ways, I'd probably win the fucking gold. Sometimes I avoid it probably too much, but I don't like it. I don't want it. and I'm going to try to do things not in a I have my boundaries. I'm not going to um, avoid conflict to hurt myself. That's for fucking sure. But if there's a way to avoid it, I'm going to try and find a way. Just because I grew up in a very chaotic, shitty home in some ways, where there was always fighting and arguing. I'm like a peacekeeper. I don't want drama. So be clear, but more clear about what you're okay talking about. And be consistent and enforce it every single fucking time. Now, I will say that this shit is a lot easier via text or written word than it is person to person. And so I can't claim to be any expert about doing it face to face. But what I will say is when I've had those moments in the very early stages where she was like, well, I want to do this and this and this, or we need to do this, or what, and I would always say, put it in a message, and that would be it. I don't have to discuss it. There's no need to. I knew it was triggering me, whatever it was. That was very early on, so I don't remember. But I can remember her getting very pissed. Like, why can't we just discuss it here? Just send it in a message, right? And that's a lot easier terrain to navigate because you can take your time. You can figure out exactly what you want to say. You can ignore shit, and it'd be less weird and awkward, right? So if you can get it in a sort of level playing field, which is in a message. When you do this, you're going to get pushback. And here's what's actually kind of fucking cool about that. Pushback to your boundaries is exactly why you fucking need them. So it's just confirmation that you're doing the right thing. So when you get these things, again, disengage, draw back, ask it to be put in a message, ask it to be discussed at a later time. There is very few things in this world that has to be figured out right fucking then and there when it involves the kids. Like whatever it is can be figured out. I'm sure there are exceptions. I'm sure there's somebody out there with a story, and it was like we had to figure out who was going to take her to the birthday party because it was at 2 o'clock and it was 1:30. Okay, yeah, fine. I'm sure there are circumstances and instances where that is true, but in general, there's not a fucking thing that you can't figure out later on. So disengage. Do not feed into the bullshit because here's what that does. It also reinforces to you that you're not worth respecting. So the message could be, I'm saying I don't want to talk about this, and then she says, "Why not?" And then you start going back and forth, and then so she's disrespecting you. She's not respecting your request of I don't want to talk about this right now. And you're engaging with that allows for a disrespect to come, and it be a confirmation that you're not worthy of respect. Now, this is all subconscious type shit. So if you do engage, that's what's going to happen. At least that's in my experience, that's what I have found. I have found I gain much more self-respect when I'm able to walk away from the situation and not allow someone to disrespect me by challenging me. I'm talking co-parent relationships. Obviously, there's space for debate and pushback and conversation about a variety of topics, but I'm talking about this particular scenario with a co-parent. Don't disrespect yourself by engaging. It's a waste of time, and it only hurts your growth, your healing, et cetera, et cetera. And that's it on this one. I think there's as with anything, there's nuance, there's difficulty. This shit isn't easy, but I'm trying to give you things that work for me. For me, I'm very good at disengaging. The silent treatment is literally the embodiment of disengaging. So this is the skill that I already possess. Too far, right? I'm almost too good at it. I wish I would engage a little more, and I'm working on it. I'm trying because it's important to engage as well. It's important to be able to have discussions and debates with folks or even if absolutely necessary, the co-parent to get your point across. Sometimes it's a waste of fucking time trying to get your point across because they're going to do whatever their fucking legally allowed to do anyway, right? So it can be a giant waste of time. But in life in general, it's good to stand up for yourself. It's good to speak your mind. You don't always have to disengage. That's something I'm working on. It is not a skill I possess. Disengagement in spades, gold fucking medal over here. But engaging, I'm not always the best at. So you are certainly not alone in this journey of trying to better yourself or improve yourself or feel better about yourself. We all struggle with this shit. And learning how to set boundaries is just one way to start feeling better about who you are after a divorce. That's all I got for this one. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. If you are feeling alone on this journey, please join our Discord server. Becoming a phoenix is not a solitary act. It is one achieved through community. Our Discord server is just that, a community of men fighting to survive, thrive, and rise from their divorce. Go to risingphoenixpodcast.com/Discord for information on how to join and what is contained in our Discord server. Please join us.